Hello. Sorry, I'm just waiting for a few people to come on. Hello, lovelies. I'm just going to wait for a few minutes and then we are going to get started. Hi, girls. Lovely to have you here. Sorry that it's been so last minute, and I will be saving this to my feed so people can catch up. I haven't even had a lot of time to get my head around what I'm going to say tonight, so I'm just going to share what comes and what I think people might be experiencing and going through right now. Hello, lovelies. Some lovely familiar faces. Thank you for being here. So, the reason why I am here is because there has been a report in Ireland into the mother and baby homes from 1922 to 1998. Oh my God, can you believe that they were in operation up until 1998? Okay, so this has come to light based on a mass burial found in Tuam about 5 years ago. And so the government has done an investigative report. This report came out yesterday and it has been extremely triggering for anybody who has experienced baby loss of any kind. For parents who have lost their children at older ages. For people who have been adopted through these homes, and for families affected directly by these homes indeed. And also I think people who also have been adopted in other shape or form, not through these homes, but I think adoption in general is obviously going to be triggering for people who have been adopted. Okay, so please, and another one that is very triggering, a friend shared with me this evening, is that couples were forced to marry that shouldn't have married, and the subsequent trauma felt by those two people, the families around them, and their children will and have been, felt and been passing through the generations. So very, very triggering, this report. So please be kind to yourself. I believe there was, let me just see, I've got some notes here, sorry. There was, 47,000 people, children, or 27,000 people affected by these homes during this period. And I worked out today, if each of those went on to have a 3 children family, and then they went on to have a 3 children family, we are talking 500,000 people around the world directly affected as a result of the homes themselves, which is, I'll explain later, is obviously really awful. But there's going to be other people affected and their families affected by this, by the knock-on effect of how this was in the community. So the family members where the mother and father kicked their sister out and sent her to one of these homes, the sister will have experienced suppressed emotions, trauma, etc., which will have moved down her path and her line. So if you extrapolate these families and their descendants and the affected surrounding family members, we could be talking about millions of people around the world from Irish descent who have been holding this grief, this trauma, this absolute horror in their bodies, in their emotions, in their psyche, in their DNA. This is huge. Okay, now I know what happened in Ireland in this situation is incomparable to other countries where there's been other atrocities and war and everything like that. And I know that what I'm talking about tonight is very specific around the Irish report that has come out. But this same principle applies. Someone said it's really triggering something in me. The same principle applies to every country where there is trauma. I will save this, love, don't worry. Thank you. So everywhere that we have experienced separation in the mother bond, in any shape or form, there will be repercussions. And I will explain this, okay? So when a mother is not able to provide the life force energy to her child, okay, so it's our job as children to soak up as much love from our parents as humanly possible. Okay, so, and it's our job as parents to provide that love and that connection as much as humanly possible. And in not in all circumstances is that possible. Sometimes mothers and parents become sick and they're not able to provide that love and connection. Sometimes they are physically removed. So there's a physical separation. There can also just be an emotional separation. So here we would have in the situation a physical separation of mom and child. And that long-lasting separation is extremely damaging. And when we have a break in the and have this kind of level of trauma, we feel it in our own sense of self. So our own sense of self is damaged. I'm not good enough. Like in every situation, every negative and positive situation, we will take and we will make a decision or make a vow or a contract or a decree. So, for example, in a car crash, a young child might think the world is not a safe place, okay? That then in future life could end up as an agoraphobic belief or an agoraphobic behaviour because they cannot go outside the door because they believe that the world isn't a safe place. Okay, so they've made their own conscious decision based on the trauma of a car crash. So every time we have a negative experience, we will either make a belief like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm unlovable. Think of what these families have gone through. They have been rejected. People have been rejected, abandoned, separated. All of these things leave a massive, massive gap in the solar plexus connection between mother and child. That rips us of our own sense of self. So when this happens in a family, this may not have happened to you. This may have happened to your mom or your grandmother or your great-grandmother. And when this happens in a family line, the unresolved, unhealed, unspoken about traumas, the sweeping under the carpet of the atrocities that were happening, the lack of acknowledgement of anybody's feelings, the fear of being able to speak out about what you wanted in life, the disregard for your own wishes and beliefs as a child, and even maybe a mother who's having to force her daughter into this situation. You know, huge thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are affected by these decisions, by this behaviour, by this collective societal behaviour. And the repercussions are massive. So it's almost like we have unearthed and brought to light a collective energy of shame and guilt that nearly every single Irish person holds in some way, shape or form. And this also goes back to the famine. We weren't good enough. We weren't good enough to be saved. We weren't good enough to be helped. And I really truly believe that a lot of addiction stems from this disconnection to the mother, this disconnection to who we really are and our own self-belief, which is all in the stomach. And I feel we are craving alcohol, sugar, drugs, exercise, an addiction to things that make us feel good because we have not been able to give that to ourselves. I hope that makes sense. So what happens is when there's ancestral trauma in the ancestral line, for example, a great grandmother has an experience that that can get passed down, these beliefs, these changes in the DNA. So as we have these traumatic experiences, our DNA gets changed. This has been proven in the Holocaust, and generations, 2 to 3 generations now after the Holocaust, having a mutated gene in their body. There's a New York researcher, a female, I can't remember her right now, but if you're interested in that, go check it out. So there's 4 ways this can re-affect us in our generation. So if this happened later in life, this can re-affect in our generation. Oh my God, my grandmother was raped by an older man whose house she was working in. She had a baby and had to give him up, so I'm living her trauma now. Yeah, in short. So bless you, sending you lots and lots of love. Okay, so when we have these trauma, it affects us in multiple ways. We can merge with a parent, which means we take on the responsibility of making a parent happy, or both parents. So if your mother has suffered growing up at the hand of a grandmother who's cold and indifferent and can't show love, then your mother is going to be really impacted in the way she shows love to you, right? So we can often take on the job of making mums happy because we have merged with them. We cannot see a separation from them. We crave their identity and love so much that we haven't been able to distinguish ourselves from them. Okay, that looks like it's resonating with lots of people. Merging with a parent is one of the things that we do. We can also reject a parent. We can also very quickly say, well, mom's not giving me that love. I'm not feeling it from her, so I'm going to build a wall up. And every time she tries to connect with me, I'm going to reject it because I don't want to get hurt again. Okay, so that might also resonate with a lot of people. A heart wall or a wall in your defense system. This is all subconscious, by the way, all subconscious, and all happens really young. We can reject a parent because we don't want to get hurt again. We experience a break in the mother bond. So the pattern of a break in the mother bond can be repeated. Okay, and I have seen this with a client. This happened with a mom and all three of her children were all separated after birth for one reason or another. And it was based on a separation the mom had during wartime. So there can be a repeat of the trauma, literally the repeat of the same pattern. And another thing is we can identify with another member of the family. So it doesn't have to have come directly from our mother. It could be an aunt or an uncle on the on the mother or the father line that is holding the energy of this trauma, and we can feel and tune into it and have it impact our lives if it's unresolved and unhealed and unspoken about, etc. Okay, so there's 4 things. We can merge with a parent, we can reject a parent, the separation of the mother bond can be repeated, and we can identify with another member of the family. So what this means is often we're holding anxiety, pain, physical pain, experiences that have been a repeated pattern in the family at a certain age in particular. So at 18, you might all of a sudden start to feel ill or feel anxious for no reason. That is a repeated pattern, an inherited pattern of behaviour and emotion and trauma. Okay? All of these things that we're holding now that cannot be explained rationally. Okay, so many of us could have had a great childhood, but all of a sudden are feeling, I've got this anxiety and I don't know what to do, or I'm tuning into something or feeling an emotion or something's happening in your life that is totally out of sync with anything that's happened prior. It can often be an ancestral event, an ancestral inherited trauma. Okay, so the good news is this can be healed. As we heal ourselves and we heal basically up the generational line and down the generational line, we can heal our children so that they're not carrying this energy any further. I feel like our generation is the generation to say, no, the shit stops with us. I refuse to pass my shit down and the shit of the world that we've inherited down, okay? Now is the time to do this work and to release and let go. And it doesn't have to be that painful. It doesn't have to be that difficult. And hang on a sec, someone clear. I heard before that if an uncle or aunt has no children, their stupid goes to the nieces and nephews to be cleared. Wow. How to release the trauma, and how do you know if you've passed the trauma to your own children if you've experienced baby loss in your first child? Well, I'm with you there, Jer. Obviously, I've experienced baby loss. The thing is, don't think about linear time. think about space and time as that we can affect all dimensions, all directions, always. Okay, so dimensionally, past, present, future, and through the dimensions, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, beyond, whatever we want to believe. And when we do our own work, when we release and let go of these trapped emotions, when we acknowledge, and we even, what this report is doing is getting people to speak about these babies. These babies are on the front page of the Irish Examiner yesterday in Cork, just from one home. This huge front cover full of names of these mothers and children that have died, and acknowledging them. This work that we're doing, this talking, is absolutely going to have an impact. But where you feel you're carrying something specifically, there is releases that you can do. And I have I'll talk you through an example, okay? I'll talk you through an example of a client yesterday, and this is uncanny that we had this experience yesterday. So this was postponed from a week or two ago because I had COVID. And the lovely client is on here tonight, and she is allowing me to share this story with you. Okay, so she gives birth 4 months ago, and there was after her birth she had a hemorrhage and lost quite a lot of blood, had to go to theatre, had to get a blood transfusion, and had a slow recovery and a very difficult recovery. But since giving birth, now this is 4 months ago, so luckily she's doing some amazing work early doors. 4 months ago, she had a beyond rational fear of dying. Now, I know that the experience that she had, where she had a lot of blood loss, etc., would have induced that element of fear. And a conversation with the nurse afterwards, where the nurse, my client asked her, what would have happened if I had been at home? And the lady said, well, years ago you would have died. So something like that to somebody is obviously going to cause a bit of fear. But this was becoming very everyday. She was getting a lot of intrusive thoughts and a lot of post-traumatic stress. So I very quickly wanted to get her to contact and communicate with her own guide to find out what was going on here, what was at play. So straight away, she tuned in to the energy of her great-grandmother. And as she came in, Claire remembered her whole story. And I'm going to tell you this story now. So her great-grandmother had 15 babies. Okay, so 15 babies. 10 survived. And on her last baby, she herself died. And as my client told me this, we both couldn't believe the link. So Claire becoming a mother and having her own traumatic experience caused her to tap into the energy of fear of loss, fear of, and sadness. It was actually sadness. So we were able to communicate. I guided my client to communicate with her great-grandmother. And she was able to say that basically the emotion that was felt was sadness. And so we called in all of the ancestors affected by her loss. And Claire was able to see a vision. She had a vision of the death and all of the family around, because there was 9 other siblings there. So can you imagine the mom dying through childbirth with all the family in the house? I mean, absolutely devastating. So we did a big release for all the ancestors affected by the trauma, because there would have been the 10 surviving children, their subsequent families from them. So if you think about the volume of people, we're talking 100 or so people potentially coming from this family line. And we handed back grief and sadness. We handed back all the grief and sadness all the way through the lines. And when it got back to the great-grandmother, she was struggling to let go. And so we asked why. we asked why she was struggling, and she said she was frozen in time within the trauma of her passing. So I imagine that the spirit of her great-great-grandmother had not been able to move on and was actually frozen in time. So don't imagine linear time. Think, multiple dimensional time. So she was in this frozen bubble, stuck, unable to move on, unable to pass. And we asked her what she needed, and Claire gave it to her, and there was this huge big ball of white light brought in, and it dispersed and cleared and healed, and the great-grandmother was able to release. She was able to let go. She was able to move on, and she had the most beautiful vision of all 15 of her baby souls. God, I'm getting emotional now. All connecting with life force energy, and that's what was missing. Life force energy is what a mom passes to a child and a dad passes to a child, but more so from the mother, because it's coming from like the womb and the solar plexus, this life force energy. And she was able to see all of them connected by this light. It's almost like an umbilical cord connecting them all, and they were able to move on. Instantly, she felt so much lighter, so much relief, like a weight has been lifted off her. And I checked in with her today, and she is still feeling amazing. And in fact, couldn't even believe that she was feeling that energy. It was almost like she's forgotten or disassociated with it so much. And this was all consuming for her. So all of this healing is possible, and it's possible easily, and it doesn't have to be very painful, and it can all happen within you. It's not something like you need externally. It can be all done within you, and obviously it's easy to have somebody guide you to that and through that, and that I'm here, and there's many other people that are able to help do that. But I do have a Ancestral Trauma workshop that I hosted a few months ago that you can buy on my website, and I think I'm going to run the Ancestral Trauma workshop again in the next month or two, because there were so many people signed up for that, and it was incredible. So if you fancied joining that, or you could buy the replay of the last one, either way they're available on my shop of my website, tappingformums.com. So I just wanted to get on and share the impact that trauma has on the generations, and explain why you might be feeling triggered now. Is because if this experience is in any way connected to your family, then in your DNA and in your emotional memory that you have inherited through birth and being alive, that is going to be impacting you. And what you're feeling right now may not be your own. You might also be tapping into the collective energies, the collective anger, frustration, disgrace, disgust, pain, trauma, anguish, so many emotions that this is bringing up. And in a way, it is great. It's a great opportunity. When we are triggered by something, we are seeing a part of ourselves that we don't like, or we're feeling something that's within us that we don't like. It's very important to do work to clear and release that. And I use personally tapping to do that, visualization and meditation. Recently I've discovered TREs, so trauma release exercises. There's movement. There are so many different modalities out there to help you release trauma and pain and blocked emotions. My friend Kelly Day, follow her on This Is Kelly Day. She does emotion code healing. Like, that is incredible. Anyone got any questions before I wrap up? I'm conscious I have talked a lot, but there is a lot of information about ancestral trauma and how it works on my website, if that's something that interests you. So anybody got any questions? I will save this. Has this been helpful? Hopefully it's been helpful. I'm about to go on to a meditation tonight at 9 p.m. To help the collective and help release and heal. So if anybody wants to go and do that. Hello Aisling down in New Zealand, how amazing. Louise, your work is so powerful, Sarah. I can vouch for this. I've more work to do with you, but what we've done so far has been so impactful, and I look forward to being free of the layers of trauma, and I can't wait to take you there, Louise. We will do this. Any questions? I'm going to save this now. If anybody wants to join, it's Elaine_Doyle. It'll be on my stories, a link to her Zoom tonight at 9 o'clock, which is in half an hour's time, for anyone who wanted to join in with that collective healing and processing. And if you're feeling triggered, I know a few people have already told me that they're coming tonight. If you're feeling triggered by any of this stuff, maybe you could join and help the collective. Let's let go of this shit once and for all, and might free up and have amazing consequences on the actual integration of the Catholic Church in Ireland. That is something I would like to see broken, pulled out. How about that? Can you undo the negative impact completely? Yes. You can release yourself of all limiting beliefs, all experiences, all dis-ease by handing it back. The process of handing it back and transmuting it and releasing it, it is a choice. We are sovereign, divine sovereign beings having a human experience, and we have so much choice and power. Please remember that. You can heal yourself. Thank you all for showing up. Talk to you soon. See you soon. Lots of love. Bye. Oh, many generations of cold behaviour in our family in the past, but rectified through time. Brilliant. And all the work that you do is going to have the biggest impact on your family, of what happens around you and their subsequent generations. Think about it. The healed generations beneath us are going to be saving the world. This is our job. We have to do the work. We have to let it go. Okay. Sending you lots of love tonight, and really look after yourself. Don't get involved in things if it's going to be too heavy for you. So I'm working on, so I can work on ancestral trauma in me, but how does it affect my little boys currently? So as I said before, don't think of space and time. So obviously they are alive, your children, but their energy is I'm not explaining this very well. Everything we do has a knock-on effect forwards, backwards, regardless of if they're alive or dead, okay? So their higher self energy is accepting the healing and integrating that wherever they are in the universe, if they've been reborn or still up in the heavens having a grand old jolly, laughing at us here on earth. Okay, that was a good question. Yes, get in touch if you've got any questions, or if you'd like to leave a comment on the saved version of this, that would be appreciated, because that will help more people find it. Thank you so much, ladies, for your time, and I'll talk to you soon.